welcome to another episode of All That Film. Welcome, guys, to another episode of All That Film. Today is going to be a Brad Pitt themed episode with none other than Brat Pitt.
Woo, that's me. Hello.
Mia, if you want to tell the dear listener who your favorite actor is.
Well, that's a really hard one. I would have to say Mr. William Bradley Pitt.
I didn't know about the William.
Yes, his first name is William. That's a fun fact. Bradley is his middle name, and he changed it for the stage. Well, it's a boring name. I'm sorry. No offense to William.
William is not the best.
I'm sorry. Like, Williams, you're valid, and it's, that's your name, but if his name was Will Pitt, I just don't think
would have worked out the same.
Would have worked out the way. We couldn't have called it Brad Astra. We'd have to. I don't even know what we'd do.
Will Wastra? I don't.
Will Wastra? That's awful.
Yeah, no, never mind. But we're gonna get right into that. But first, we have 3 bits of movie news for the week that I'm gonna talk with Mia about. So the first one is one me and Mia have already discussed. The Goldfinch is getting panned both by critics and at the box office. And this is probably the last week it's going to be showing. And the lead star of it, Ansel Elgort, known from Baby Driver fame, and what's the Millionaire Boys Club that he did?
With Kevin Spacey.
Yeah. But he went to, I think it was Instagram, to, just sort of talk about like his feelings about this project. How do you feel about this, Mia?
Is it okay? First off, I need to ask: is it Ansel or Ansel?
I don't know. I almost say Ansel yogurt a couple times.
I have a note in my phone where I just called him Antler Elder Scroll. So yeah, I feel that. But so my opinion on it is that I think he is a sweet boy, and I think that I would probably also be very emotional if I was him. And I could see myself doing a similar thing. So I'm not going to rag on him. And if it's getting more people to go to see the Goldfinch, as it seems like it's kind of doing, on Letterboxd, everybody's like mass giving it 5 stars.
I was going to say it's raised the score. I don't know if you've seen it, but it did 2 days ago. It was like 2.6. I think it's at 2.8 now.
Oh, see, look at that.
The influence of a grown man crying is
the influence, and I do appreciate that, like a man crying publicly for millions of people. I think that's really sweet, and so. Yeah, and he's talking about his mom. He's crying.
Yeah, he did it in like a really organic way. I thought there were a couple of people like sort of clowning him on Twitter, and I was like, no, like this guy's just talking about like a project that he was super invested in that didn't, work out, and that happens sometimes. I don't know. I'm curious to know if he did anything for Millionaire Boys Club, because that movie made like $1,000 at the theater.
I remember that. I remember that. I didn't see that because Kevin Spacey, and also because it just like wasn't. I don't care about rich people or boys, so it just wasn't really for my demographic, I'd say. But I guess there's Baby Driver. That's really the only thing from him. Right?
The Fault in Our Stars.
Well, I mean, there's The Fault in Our Stars, but I kind of blocked that. I blocked that out.
Jeez. He's in a couple of other things. I know he's in the other thing with Shailene Woodley where they're brother and sister.
Well, they're brother and sister, because that's what they did.
Divergent.
They cast them as brother and sister in Divergent, and then they cast them as lovers.
As lovers in The Fault in Our Stars. He's also in West Side Story coming up.
Yes, so. Let's see how that goes. I'm rooting for him. I really am. Also, have you heard his music?
I have. He's pretty talented. I
like his song Thief. Call me a thief. There's been a robbery. Oh, like I listen to that song unironically in my car. It's just on my playlist, and sometimes it comes up, and I'm thrilled every time. So I'll give him that.
I was a little hesitant because sometimes when famous people try to make music. Cough, cough, Jeremy Renner. It's not the best, which is fine. Like if I had, millions of dollars, I'd be like, oh, sure, I'll try to do my best to make an Imagine Dragons cover band. But no, he makes some pretty good beats.
I agree.
I like his music a lot. But the second piece of news, the French Dispatch, Wes Anderson's latest project, gets a release and a cast lineup also released. So this is going to be with Benicio del Toro, Jeffrey Wright, Adrian Brody, Timothy Chalamet, and a couple of other people returning that you've known Anderson for. How do you feel about this with Timothy joining?
I am very excited because I am a big fan of Wes Anderson. I really do love all of his films, except for like the Darjeeling Limited. But
what?
I'm sorry, I didn't like that one. It's my least favorite one.
My gosh.
But I like the rest.
Interesting. No. This is fine.
This is fine. It's fine. I love the short film that's part of it, the Hotel Chevalier.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that short film with Natalie Portman and the music. I just don't like Darjeeling Limited, but I do like the rest of his films, I will say. And one more thing. Brad Pitt dropped out of the French Dispatch.
Ooh.
And I'm still a little
Is that
sore
cursed
about
for
that.
you?
I know. Yeah, because he was like in the running, he was gonna do it, and then he didn't. And it's like that's probably the Benicio del Toro character because they look the same. But no, I
do
have
think
no idea,
him and Usual Suspects and him and Snatch look similar. I don't know why.
Yes. No, you're completely right. Like, okay, so when I watched Snatch really stoned one time a long time ago, and as people do. And like when I first saw Benicio del Toro, like in the opening part, like I really thought it was Brad Pitt because he's kind of in a disguise and stuff too. And I like watched that whole scene thinking it was Brad Pitt. And then I had trouble distinguishing them until they showed Brad Pitt. And I was like, oh, right. Yeah, that's
that's the guy.
That's the guy. But yeah, they do look very similar. And so as a result, I really enjoy Benicio del Toro, but not to
not to the same level.
Yeah, not. I don't want to make it seem like I'm disparaging Benicio
Brad
del
Toro. Yeah,
I am not Brad del Toro, I will say, but I do really like him. I think he's a brilliant actor, and I'm very excited for this movie, to be honest, and Timmy, obviously.
Sure, yeah, that's a great cast, and
is it still
only put out?
Yeah,
is it still
it still like a musical?
Do you know? I think so. I think they're still going with that, which is lovely.
God, yes, I love that. Yeah, I think it's going to be really fun. So I'm rooting for it, even if I don't know. Actually, now that I think about it, I'm kind of lukewarm on Isle of Dogs too.
But that's interesting.
Yeah, I still like it.
Maybe we'll have you on to talk some West later. But last piece of news, we have Rian Johnson, the director of The Last Jedi and several other great projects, warns viewers not to watch the Knives Out trailer.
Ooh.
And the reason I brought this up is because I have for about 3 years, you don't know this, Mia, but I don't really watch trailers. I've sort of changed it recently. If there's a film I did not want to see at all, for instance, Rambo Last Blood, the Addams Family movie that's coming out, like Minions 2, and that trailer drops, I'll probably watch that trailer just if it can sell me, then I'm interested. And then that trailer can do its work. But like Joker, Avengers Endgame, the new Star Wars movie, I try to stay away from. So I'm interested. How do you feel about trailers first? And then how do you feel about Rian Johnson actively telling people not to see the marketing for this film?
Yeah. I think that's really interesting. I actually have a similar philosophy about trailers. I don't really watch trailers either. I don't watch them like when they drop online or anything, when they're like, oh, new trailer announcement. That means nothing to me for the most part because I don't know. But if I'm in a movie theater and the trailers are playing, I usually watch them because it's like, well, it's on the big screen and whatever, I'll watch it. So that's kind of the way that I consume my trailers. But I have noticed that the first trailers that they release, I like because they're just teasing, they're just kind of showing the tone and kind of the cast. But then as they put out more and more, it does start to give away things that I would rather just be surprised about.
Sure. Yeah. And I actually need to see this new trailer that dropped. You don't know this, and I've mentioned this, and people are probably tired of me mentioning it. I saw Knives Out early, like for whatever reason they did a test screening. It's a great film. I could
Cool.
see why Rian Johnson wants people to go in blindly, because that was a wonderful experience, because literally it was an audience full of like 150 people, just because it was a free showing. And everyone was just on the same level, where some people didn't even know what the movie is. They just heard free and were like, hey, buddy, here we go. But I hope this does well, especially after Rian Johnson just got tossed, over and over with these random trolls on social media about The Last Jedi.
Yeah, I do. I really do like Rian Johnson a lot. I love The Last Jedi. I really did love it. I know a lot of people don't. I don't know your thoughts about it, but that's okay.
I was gonna say I love the philosophy of like what Rian Johnson brings to the table, and I think
what it stands for.
Exactly. Yeah. I think the film struggles in parts, and I think there's a difference between not loving the character of Rose to the people that are attacking her on Twitter, because it's like, well, an actor doesn't really decide the script. Like, that's not on her.
Yeah.
Like, Rose didn't show up on stage.
I completely agree with that. Yeah. Like, as an Asian woman, it was like cool for me to see Rose, but also I wish they had done a little bit some different things with her character, because like it's very cool that she's there, but I didn't like that like forced romance thing was weird.
And it was really weird, especially when spoilers, but when she goes for the kiss at the end, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, see that was like I don't know about that, and I didn't really like that, but it's like, yeah, again, that's not a critique of the actress by any means.
For sure.
And it's and I guess I kind of see how like in the script that might seem more powerful, but I just don't think it worked out super well in the movie. But again, I don't think it's movie ruining.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. But especially when all the cogs are working so well. But I actually have a funny story on that. I, again, don't watch trailers. Don't look at cast lists, just because there's occasionally spoilers. I did see a blurb that was like, Star Wars cast its first Asian woman in a leading role. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then I get into Last Jedi. And then there's Rose's sister at the start, who dies within like the first minute and 30 seconds. And I was like, oh, yeah. Was that it? Like, I was very worried that that's what Disney perceived as like, see, lead character.
Yeah,
like,
lead.
We love representation.
Yeah, I love when they there for a minute then die.
A similar thing happened in Finding Dory. I don't know if you remember that, but they were like,
I saw Finding
Disney.
Dory.
Yeah, they were like Disney.
Oh, the gay couple, the lesbians.
Yes, that they're just holding hands like in the background, and I was like, this wasn't even like.
It's like, this means nothing. Or like the Beauty and the Beast thing with LeFou.
Yes, with LeFou. Yeah.
Where he like dances with a man at the end, like.
And they're like, see, we did it.
Look at that. Look, that's breaking new barriers. It's like, okay. I don't know about that one.
Yeah.
But
But that's going to wrap it up for our movie news of the week. So let's get into it with Mr. William Bradley Pitt.
As a bushwhacking guerrilla army, we're going to be doing one thing and one thing only. Killing Nazis.
Oh, what's in the box? What's in the fucking box?
Give me the gun. Because he's going to want to know that his shit is secure. That he gives us a reward. I would be very fucking surprised if he did not.
Gentlemen, welcome to Fight Club. The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club. The second rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
All right, so we're going to be talking the illustrious career of Brad Pitt. He's one of the most talented actors. Are we going to throw out this bold claim?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say that there are other actors, and he acknowledges this in his GQ interview. There are other actors who are
citing your sources. I like this.
Yeah, see, I can cite. Yeah, he cites specifically Christian Bale and Tom Hardy. But for me, I like them. But like there are actors like Philip Seymour Hoffman or Daniel Day-Lewis, and I'm going to say John Cassavetes too. Sure. I'm going to say it because I love him, even though, but who I love because they can do multiple things. If that makes sense, like like they can really lose themselves in the. and
like
like
Christian
transform
Bale can go
themselves and
from
all
a
these
fat man
things.
to a skinny man.
Yes, like these actors, and I guess not John Cassavetes anymore. I'm just thinking about him, but like Philip and Daniel and all them, they will completely change themselves. And Brad Pitt isn't necessarily interested in doing that. Because he's so famous and he looks the way he does.
Brad
He
Pitt when he's on screen.
Yes, and he's I'd say that he's definitely in the one of the most famous movie stars in the world, hands
I
down.
think he's the most
And
famous.
the most famous, yeah. Like
Yeah.
his image is just so important. So
Iconic, yeah.
yeah, I see why he has to put himself so much in all of his roles. And I think that it does take a very special talent to be able to do that and not go absolutely insane, to like merge
For sure.
to merge yourself and these characters that you play and be that famous and be under a microscope is very hard. So yeah, I do think that he's very talented and that his looks kind of make us think that he's just a hot guy, which
he's not trying. Yeah,
yeah,
for
where
sure.
it's like, yeah,
And
he is just a hot guy. He is a hot guy, but he also has talent, and there are
Works his
plenty of
butt
hot
off.
guys. Yeah, he works really hard. He has talent, and there are a lot of hot dudes who look good on the screen, and I like watching them, but they don't really bring anything or make me feel anything. Whereas in his performances that he really nails, like in my opinion, Ad Astra and also like Seven and these movies that really he gives this performance that makes me like cry because he's so into it. Yeah, he's definitely talented.
Sure. And one of the things that I think is important, I think Brad Pitt sort of gets underrated by everyone again because of that pretty boy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Just because everyone's like, oh God, he's so handsome, and no one's really seeing like, I don't know what it is, but I think people just assume because how handsome Brad Pitt is, they're like, oh, he has to be a good actor, or like he's not even trying. But one of the things specifically, and we'll get into the actual roles, because you name, and these are the actors Brad Pitt's naming. I think Tom Hardy and Leo and Christian Bale, even Jake Gyllenhaal, to name a more younger one.
Yeah.
I think those people are better actors and like more concerned about like the craft of acting.
The craft, yeah.
But at the end of it,
I agree.
think Brad Pitt has something that none of them have, in that just he has like a movie star like coolness about himself. That's like, I am this. I don't care if like you don't want this. Like I go to this film in particular because it's the most recent one. But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, like the character of Cliff Booth is so cool. And like, I don't think anybody else could pull off that same amount of like raw, like bravo, like a macho character that Brad Pitt's like able to do just staring at the screen. Like, I don't know what it is about him, but I'm just like, dude, I'm here for it. Do whatever you want.
Yes, I agree. No, he has this presence, like this stage presence, where Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I could watch him just drive his car like around with 70s music playing for like the whole thing, or just him like feeding his dog and hanging out with his dog and watching TV.
The dog routine is so cool.
Oh, I love the dog scene. Oh yeah, like he's just interesting to watch. And with films and all of that, it's like you can have an actor who's good, but they just don't pop out at you. You just forget about them. But he is just unforgettable, and every second is like, that's like, I don't know when we're going to start talking about Brad Astor or anything, but that one, he's in every single scene.
Yeah.
And there's just so few actors who could do that.
Exactly. Yeah. And Tom Hardy actually has a film where he does that specifically. He's in a car. And even then, like, I don't think it's as good as, what Brad Pitt's able to do. Obviously the sci-fi helps, but the
sci-fi. Yeah.
Real quick before we talk, sorry to interrupt, but real quick before we talk individual performances, I thought it would be interesting just to note like what Brad Pitt has been doing as a producer.
Yes.
Because I think like he hasn't been acting as much. I mean, obviously, we're sort of having the second wave of our Pitt-assance, if you will. But just producing projects like Moonlight, if Beale Street Could Talk, Okja, Selma, and The Last Man of San Francisco. And I think there could be a way he went about that. I'm not even like giving credit in this regard, but I mean, there's a way tons of other people go like, ooh, see what I'm doing to help like push diversity. And Brad Pitt, like, he doesn't put his name on the poster. He's like, this film is theirs. Like, it's not me taking it over and me pushing my name. It's like, he understands, like, in order to push like diversity, it's important to like have those names shown. And it's not, you know, Brad Pitt produces If Beale Street Could Talk. It's, hey, Barry Jenkins made If Beale Street Could Talk, and Brad Pitt obviously sees brilliance in that. But I mean, there's some great projects: The Big Short, 12 Years a Slave, The Departed, Kick-Ass, World War Z. Interestingly enough,
yeah, I know his some of the stuff he's produced. It's, you know, he produced Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. I would like to say. Yes, the Tim Burton film. He almost starred in it.
He was about to be in it. Yep,
he was about to be Willy Wonka. And I just think that's
crazy.
Yeah, no, I love his Plan B production company. It has its own tag on Letterboxd. I tag all my Plan B movies I watch. I'm trying to watch them. But yeah, no, I completely agree how he's actually being a genuine ally by uplifting these films like Moonlight that would have struggled with getting funds and being funded. And I just think that that's a brilliant way to ally it, because it would have been so easy to put his name on everything.
For sure, they could
like it would have been so
advertised it as Brad Pitt, brought to you by Brad Pitt.
Yeah, like that.
Like, oh boy,
yeah, it would have been just so easy. And you know, he got some flack for in 12 Years a Slave. He's like he cast himself as a white savior and stuff. But
if we're talking about performances, that will be an interesting one, because
I know, yeah, and it's like. Yeah, he got some flack for that one, but at the same time, it's like he produced it and he only was in it because so that they could like cut him into the trailer and put his name on it to like get it to give it more, you know, more
also,
legs.
I think, okay, so specifically with that performance, I do think it's very, very white saviory.
No, it is. I'm
unnecessary
not gonna deny that.
for 12 Years a Slave. I think we all agree.
Yeah.
But I do think that was an interesting like lesson for Brad to like have from that, and like I think he does listen to people. If I'm trying to think of other, I don't know. It's just been an interesting career that he's had. Is there one specifically, one of the smaller ones you want to talk about before? Because I mean, this dude was in Thelma and Louise.
Oh yes,
just for a bit. He's so beautiful in Thelma and Louise.
He's so beautiful, and I think that Thelma and Louise, I think is such an important film. I've written a lot about this one, like in college and stuff, because I just think it's so groundbreaking, and I think it's very relevant to his career specifically because it was his first big movie, and it was the movie that launched him.
For sure.
In 1991, because everybody was like, "Who is that?"
Yeah.
Who
you
is
just
that
see the
guy?
face, and it's like, oh, we need to know who that is.
Yeah, it's like, what? And oh yeah, that I think that's one of his most important roles. And I know that movie's really about women and all of that stuff, and all these things I love and support, and I feel weird making it all about this man, but also he's all I think about ever. So
it's the Brad Pitt talk. It's the Brad Pitt talk. So you're fine.
I know it's Brad Pitt. It's like it is Brad Pitt, and oh, that role is just so. No words. But then after that, yeah, I know it's just it speaks for itself. But I think it was really important in the trajectory of his career, and very soon after that, just a couple of years, he did True Romance, which I think that one's one of his most underrated roles as well.
Really?
As like the stoner guy on the couch.
Go off, because I haven't seen this movie.
Oh, you haven't seen True Romance? Okay, yeah.
It's one of those. So I watched so many classics in a row that there's small ones that like, oh, I need to save this just for a specific day.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones I'm waiting on. But go off.
Okay, yes. No, True Romance, it's the one that Quentin Tarantino wrote, but he didn't direct. And Brad, he just plays the roommate of the main guy, Christian Slater, and he's just the whole movie he's just on the couch like hitting the bong and like it's just really funny. He just plays like the stoner roommate Floyd, and I think that one is also one of his most underrated roles because he's very good at comedy and these like small character actor roles.
Sure.
There have been several people have talked about this in several articles that have been going around as of late, but he's a very good character actor, but he has this leading man face and body.
He's not able to, get those roles because they're like, wait,
Yeah.
you're freaking Brad Pitt. Like,
Yeah. Like, you need to be the lead. And you need it's so, and it's hard to, do that character actor funny thing and like lead a movie
Sure.
doing that. It's just hard to do. I think it can definitely be done, but it has to be the right film and everything. And
I'm going to take that segue for Burn After Reading.
yes.
I think that might be the best performance in all of the Coen brothers filmography, which is saying a lot.
I love that take.
Yeah, he's so great. And he's just so like unapologetically a Chad, and his name is literally Chad in the film. And I don't know, there's just this raw like joyousness in his performance in that movie was my first exposure to the Coens. And it was a weird like first like boom, you're in this, and I was like, oh my god, this movie's because I was like 17ish. And it wasn't all that I was expecting. But no, he's great.
I love his performance in that one because he's just, as you said, just completely unafraid to do ridiculous things and to embrace. I just think he's great when he's playing like these loser type character, because it's like, yeah, this guy is like, obviously he's a dumb loser, but it's still wild that he just like works at a gym. Like, can you imagine if that character was
Brad
just
Pitt
like your gym trainer? Like, I just think that's so funny. Just like that idea in general. And I think he's great at playing against type. And I'd like to see him do that a little more, because I think it's interesting.
This is completely the opposite of what you just said, but if we're talking about Pretty Boy Brad Pitt, I have 3 films where he was sort of thrust into that leading man and just selling a film only on his sort of sex appeal. The River Runs Through It. I watched it once. I thought it was a little boring. I thought Brad could have been used a little bit better. Robert Redford directed. Also, Legends of Fall.
You want to know something wild about about Legends of the Fall and the River Runs Through It movie?
For it.
I haven't seen either of them because
no, that's perfectly fine.
They're like 2 of like the only ones I haven't seen, because I'm like saving. There's so few left that I have that are like completely new to me.
Well, see, that's why I watched them, because I was like, ooh, I give some Brad Pitt into my veins. And then I was like,
sometimes you need that. And it's like, I'm saving them for a day where I'm like, I need new Brad Pitt content.
That's why I haven't watched War Machine yet, because I'm like, I know it's new, but it's on Netflix. It'll always be there. I
watched War Machine.
Was it not very good?
I watched War Machine, and it was bad. It was bad. See, that was an example, I think, of the character actor weird thing gone wrong in a leading role.
Really?
Because he is doing kind of a silly thing. He's playing a real life person, but he's kind of playing him goofy, and it doesn't work. It just did not work on basically any level. But I watched the whole thing because I'm dedicated. So that's a good like thirst watch. Just if you want some Brad Pitt, it's like just throw it on.
Yeah, that's the one I'm waiting on. Good to know it's not very good. But another one. Have you seen Meet Joe Black?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All I have is my review, which is one sentence, and it said, Brad Pitt loves peanut butter for 3 hours. I'm saving you valuable time from your life. There's nothing special here besides Brad Pitt being a complete moron.
I agree. No, that was the thing. It's like Meet Joe Black. And he has said that he didn't really like Meet Joe Black, and he said like, why did I do that movie? But I think it shouldn't be 3 hours long, first off. It literally doesn't need to be 3 hours long. I think it could have been a perfectly serviceable little rom-com if they had trimmed half of it. It could have been just like a cute little thing. It didn't need to be anything big.
It could have just been in its space. Like, I think I rated, God, I already forgot the name, but Legends of Fall, or I was about to say Boys of Summer, which is completely wrong. But yeah, Legends of Fall is a whole lot shorter. And when it comes to like movies that are just nothing, when they're really long, like that can lower my score very quickly.
Yeah, yeah. It's like they can be a little shorter, you guys.
Yeah.
It can just be a little bit.
I just saw your review. It's the top one on the Meet Joe Black.
Oh no, what did I say?
Movie. The only thing stopping this from being my new go-to feel-good movie is the 178-minute long runtime for no discernible reason. Which I completely agree with.
Because it is like a sweet feel-good movie, you know? Like he's learning about death and love and all these things. And I think that at its core is sweet. And I like sweetness. I think that we could all use a little more of it. But it's just, then you bring in all that stuff about like his career and work with the Anthony Hopkins. It was like, I don't care. I just want to see him be in love with this girl and eat peanut butter and get hit by a car.
And that's one of those films that I think, again, like what you're saying, there's a good premise there. I would love a remake of that.
They could do it, and that itself was a remake. Yeah.
Oh, it was.
That
Interesting.
you know they keep. Yeah, it was a remake of like Death Takes a Holiday from like the 30s.
So, oh wow.
Yeah, it's
and there's projects like that. Like there's pockets where it's like, oh hey, they didn't perfect this when it first came out. Which I always love. There's another film. If we're talking about small, I mean, it still is 2 hours, but it doesn't feel like it. Have you seen The Mexican?
yeah, I did.
I really love Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts.
They were good.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice, fun time. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Like, I gave it like a 6 out of 10. But I just remember walking out of that movie like, man, James Gandolfini was fun. Brad Pitt and his blonde tips is always enjoyable.
Yeah. And again, he's playing a loser character in that one, which I like. He's like fighting with Julia. And I didn't know it was a rom-com. That's the thing, is I had put off that
either.
one.
I thought it was a heist.
Me too. I had put that one off because it was called The Mexican, and I was like, oh god, does he play the Mexican? I thought that at first, and I was like, that would be a bad movie. But no, it's the Mexican.
I was very worried about that. I was like, because there's another movie that's like, I forget what it is, but it's something with Africa, and it stars Meryl Streep and someone else that's very white.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on here?
The title is important, and The Mexican was just not a great title. I know it's the name of the gun.
Yep,
it's the name of the gun and everything, but it just wasn't the best title. But yeah, I didn't know it was a sweet, not sweet, I guess. It was like a rom-com mixed with kind of action-y adventure stuff. It was like
in this
genre
weird,
blending.
Like,
one may say.
Yeah, and I like to see that. Like, I don't know, it was Gore Verbinski taking chances, I guess. Like, in this fun way. I have 2 of his animated films.
Cool World.
No.
I'm hoping. Oh no.
No, I actually haven't seen that.
It's very silly because the whole thing is like his role is like this guy who's trying to stop cartoons from boning. It's like the whole thing is like cartoons and real people can't bone, and there are like police who like stop them from boning, but then he like likes this cartoon girl. It's like crazy.
Jeez. Interesting.
Like,
I'll check that out.
I am not making this up. It's a real movie, but I guess that's not what we're talking about. But it's worth a watch just for how bonkers it is.
Cool World.
Sorry, I was looking Happy Feet 2 and Megamind and Sinbad?
No, we're not talking Happy Feet 2. I mean, we can if you want. I'm adding this to my watch list immediately. This looks like Monkey Bone, and like everybody hates Monkey Bone, but I totally dig it.
Oh my god, I've never seen Monkey Bone.
Oh, you gave this a 3 out of 10. It sounded like you liked this.
Sorry, what are we talking? Are we still talking?
Cool World. Sorry, I'm all over the place. No, but I'll definitely check that out to add more Brat Pitt. But no, Sinbad. I think there's no one else who can voice the man, the myth, the legend, Sinbad.
Sinbad.
Yeah, and I really enjoy this movie. I know a lot of people don't, and maybe Mia, you're not too high on it, but for whatever reason, I just like totally dig. And it might be I haven't seen this from since I was like maybe 10, if that. Might have been even 8, but. I don't know if it holds up. What do you think?
Sinbad. Okay. I hate Sinbad, but I know. No, I've seen it multiple times. Because sometimes I just want to watch something easy with Brad Pitt's voice in it.
Of course.
Yeah, it's just like I don't want to think
rock
that
you to sleep.
hard. Yeah, it's like I don't want to think that hard, and he's in most of this movie, so like I'll just watch it. I don't really have an explanation. That's the thing, is like I don't really have a reason for why I so violently hated it, but I remember watching it as a kid for Thanksgiving with my family and just hating it. I don't know. I don't know why. And then I was like, okay, I'll watch it again as an adult. Because
That
I don't
didn't
know.
go well, I'm assuming.
Like let's just try it again, because I should like this. Brad Pitt, it's Catherine Zeta-Jones, who's, oh yes, I love her. So beautiful. I love her voice. And so I tried it again, and I think it's just one of those irrational things. Like I really don't have an explanation for why I didn't like it, but I don't like it.
Interesting.
It's one of the few things I can't explain why. Usually I can explain why I don't like something, but
Of course, yeah.
I don't have a reason. And it's
That's fair.
tragic. I wish I could
Yeah.
like it like you. I wish that were me, because it would be
How do you-
something nice I could, yeah, but
Do you feel positive on Megamind or
Megamind.
Midling? Do you dig that?
Megamind. That's another one I've seen quite a few times. Yeah, he's really not in it that much. Because he's like
they
the
used
superhero.
him well, though.
They used him well. That's the thing. I
Yeah.
totally agree. I think that role is good for him because it was like, just this good guy. He's just this symbol for goodness and
it's Brad Pitt
America
finally embracing
and-
Superman.
Yes, exactly. That's what
What
it is.
the world
It's
needs.
like, yeah. And I think that he's excellently cast for that role. I like when he sings. He sings at one point in it, so I like that.
He does. It's quite beautiful.
That was funny. That song was written by Justin Theroux, which I think is interesting. Yes,
Really?
Jennifer Aniston's ex-boo.
Interesting.
So, they're working together.
The collabs.
But yeah, Megamind's that's my review.
I like a whole lot of Megamind. I don't know. There's just something really interesting about it's sort of by the numbers in a non by the numbers way, but in a way.
That's a good way of saying it. Yeah.
Yeah, but it does so in its presentation where I really like it. Like, I don't know. Listen, I understand people are like so tired of like the opening narration of like me, I'm not a hero, and then like ending with I'm that guy. But like I dig that stuff so much.
Yeah.
So I can definitely understand why like a lot of people weren't as high on this film. But I definitely think it gets lumped into like the trolls or
it's nowhere near like that.
Oh,
yeah,
like Trolls, Boss Baby.
Oh God, it's nowhere near like
the one with Sheldon Cooper.
It's definitely better than those ones. Like,
yeah,
I like the love interest too. She's fun, Tina Fey with the short hair. Yeah. Short hair, love interest. We matter. We're there. We exist. And and I think that they do play with those superhero tropes, and they're aware of it, and they're twisting them in a fun way that, for the most part, I think that it works. Like most of the film, it works with it. And also Jonah Hill's there. I just remember
Jonah Hill's awesome.
He's really funny as like this dorky guy who gets powers and then it gets bad, which is exactly what would happen.
Exactly.
If one of those dorky guys got
time to
those
get
powers.
back to for sure. They always play it as like, oh yes, I have a perfect moral compass, and it's like, you've been bullied all your life. You might want revenge.
Yeah, you might want revenge. It's almost just natural to want revenge. So
what about Killing Them Softly? Do you have anything you want to say on that one? Or
I watched that one. And Ben
That's
Mendelsohn
my review for it too.
Yeah, it's like, yep, I sure watched Killing Them Softly, and I don't remember a single thing from it except for Brad was there.
I know, I was
so
very.
was Ben Mendelsohn.
Killing Them Softly and like Out of the Furnace, and I'm trying to remember the Mark Wahlberg one, but like it's all like these white dudes with beards holding a gun. There's like 5 of those movies that came out within like the span of 24 months. I was like, God, there's too many of these. Like,
just exhausted. Yeah, Killing Them Softly was not. I think I watched that one because it was like on Netflix already or something. So I was like,
might as well.
You might as well. Yeah, that's not. That's another.
Have you seen Babel?
Yes, I like Babel.
Cool. Here
like
we go.
Is the wrong word. Like might be the wrong word because it was so heavy and it was really like, ouch. this movie hurt my feelings in the way that true art is supposed to hurt your feelings. And yeah, I thought it was excellent, and his scenes with Kate Blanchett were just, the whole movie's devastating, especially the stuff with
Definitely.
Gael Garcia Bernal. Oh, that storyline really hurt. Every storyline, but Brad specifically, if we're focusing on that, oh
Yeah, he cries.
he cries.
You
he cries
feel it.
a lot, and yeah, you really, really feel it when he's like on the phone crying, when he's with his wife Kate Blanchett, when he like has to help her pee because she's too injured to do that even. Ouch. It was just very, very harrowing and intimate.
Sure. And I think this is one of the few movies where that interconnection actually pays off.
Yeah.
Usually when they do those separated stories, it just falls flat for me. I know there's a couple people that don't dig Babel for whatever reason. I loved it. I was like, this movie rules.
Yeah, no, it's
after I watched
brilliant.
it. Yeah, especially just because, like, I don't know. Again, like as you say, like Brad Pitt, you know him. Most people know him as the movie star going into it, and it's just like, no, this guy can act well.
Yeah,
like,
he can, because he has this. I feel that he's very sensitive and very in tune with his emotions, and all of those things. So I think that he's just has a natural propensity for it. Like, no, he's not classically trained or anything like that, but I think that he just has that natural way of tapping
to that
into
power.
something. Yeah. And I think that he can do it for the most part, but then sometimes he can't do it, like Allied.
I haven't seen Allied. That's another one I'm waiting for.
Allied. It's not a very good performance. Like the reviews said, like, what is Brad Pitt doing? He was just so wooden, and the whole thing is like he's trying to figure out if his wife is a Nazi. Is a Nazi spy.
Really?
And yeah, that's like kind of the plot. Is it's like, is she? Isn't she? And he's figuring it out, but like, there's just this scene where these government people are like, hey, your wife might be a Nazi spy. And he just is just he shows no emotionality or anything. He's just like, how could you say that? Ugh. And he's like, nothing. It was just like, what are you? I know you can do better than
we
this.
have the Oscar coming your way, Mia. for your emotional performance that you just did. If we're talking about wooden, I have one that I want to bring up. There's a couple of these films that I think fall into a similar category.
Yes.
So I don't know if we're going to talk about this beforehand, because this is a good segue to it. What is your favorite Brad Pitt hairstyle? Because I'm not big on the long hair.
I'm not big on the long hair either.
Okay.
This is such an important question.
His short hair is so great. Like,
it's so great. Okay, I think about Brad Pitt's hair. Thank you for this. Okay.
No problem. This is the important part of this conversation. Forget his roles. Forget all his talented performance.
Forget all of that. It's all about his hair. Yeah. No,
course.
I think the hair is very important, and I'm so glad that for Brad Astra, they don't do like a military cut or anything.
It's such a good haircut.
Oh my god, he's really great hair in that one. But so this hair thing actually kind of ties into the Ocean's movies, because yeah, here we go.
Go for it. Let's get into it, because I love these films.
Yes, because I feel like the Oceans, the three of them, kind of show each of his main hairstyles, except for his long hair. Which
we don't have to talk about that.
We don't have to talk about that. I don't like it, but if he's happy with it, then I'm happy that he's happy.
It matters, Brad.
That's my opinion.
If you're happy, we're happy.
Yeah, that's how I feel. It's like, if you like it, that's fine. But yeah, the Oceans. The first one, his hair is okay. It has like the frosted. It looks. I don't know. Can you picture it?
Yes, no, I actually have it up right now in front of me.
Yeah, in the first one, it's okay.
It's solid. It's like a 7, maybe trailing on an 8, maybe making its way up there. However, if we're going Ocean's 12,
but then we go to Ocean's 12, exactly, and that's where
that's my hair. Like Brad, when he's like that,
really?
Oof. I'm
really
serious.
Interesting.
I'm 100%.
Well, yeah, because he does that for like Mr. and Mrs. Smith too, and he does
I had that pulled up, and I was just like, oof.
Mm-hmm. Oh my god, interesting. I'm not really a fan of it. I love Ocean's 12. I think Ocean's 12 Ocean's 11.
Okay. So
I love Ocean's 12, but
I guess I should pause on this, because there's a difference, and like movie star Brad Pitt, and like which one is like Brad Pitt's like sexiest. I think his sexiest
Yes.
haircut
Oh yeah.
and like sexiest persona is in Fight Club, which
Fight
is
Club.
a film
There we
we
go.
can wait to talk about, but like that is far and away like number
Yeah.
one.
We've gotten so far without mentioning Fight Club. That's impressive.
No, I was sort of, well, we're not supposed to talk about it.
I know we're not supposed to talk. That's the first rule.
No, but in the Ocean's film specifically, I think that goes back to what I was saying, where it's like no one else can do what Brad Pitt does when it comes to like being cool, when he's just like doing these heist movements. And I really like a lot of parts of Ocean's 8, and I think that film
Ocean's
is
8.
Were you not big on it?
I have a lot of I have some complicated feelings about Ocean's 8.
I love just like
Yeah.
the way it shows like, oh, hey, they're women, they're just existing, and they don't have to, because I think Annihilation does that well too. Like
I
they
love
just have a
Annihilation.
female cast, and like Annihilation specifically, like they didn't make a big deal of it. I obviously
Yes, loved that.
Ocean's 8's whole marketing was like, ooh, see, the girls can do it too. And it's like,
Mhm.
well, that's not really what the film is selling. But I was
Yeah.
just gonna say that movie struggles without a Brad Pitt like character.
Yes, I
and
agree.
I think that's what, because I think is it Kate Blanchett?
Yeah, Kate Blanchett is kind of the Brad.
She's trying,
Pitt
and like she's a great actress. But I just don't think she was the one to have like the raw coolness. And I don't know who I'd cast instead. If we could throw maybe Brad Pitt with the longer hair, doll him up, shave his beard.
Exactly. He could have just done it again.
Yeah,
And that could have been the
it would've
heist.
fine.
That would have been the trick.
No, but
No,
all
yeah.
of this hair talk was to say that his hair in World War Z is probably my least favorite.
I think so too. I agree. It's so bad. Oh my god, and
It's
his
so
silly little
bad.
scarf, his mini scarf that he wears too.
It was Brad Pitt's scarf era.
Ugh.
But the thing is, like, he's still a movie star, and like
Yeah.
World War Z, for all intensive purposes, is probably a bad movie. But
Yeah.
Brad Pitt's in it,
Yeah,
so
I
I'm like,
agree.
oh, this is fun.
Yeah. No, it's like still fun. And it's audiences saw it, and like my people, like my dad likes it or whatever. So it did what it was supposed to do, I guess, even if it wasn't my cup of tea. The
Yeah,
only
for sure.
part I really remember is when all the zombies are like going up
Playing
at that
on a
wall,
wall.
and they're all
Yep,
climbing
no.
all over each other. I think that was a cool scene. But that's
I
the only
remember
thing I remember.
Brad Pitt drinking his Coke.
Yeah. Oh, he makes breakfast for his kids or something too in the
Does,
beginning.
yes, that also.
That
And
was really, really good.
I think if, I don't know, Brad Pitt probably wants to have like more tender moments like that in his films, but they're like,
Mhm.
oh no, you're a big action star, so you have to like
Yeah.
be zombies, and he's like, all right, like whatever.
Mhm. No, yeah, I agree. I bet that because again, he's very in touch with those emotions, and going back to his not as great roles like Allied or Interview with the Vampire, which I like Interview with the Vampire, even though it's silly. I like it because of how silly it is. I don't know if you saw
I've seen
Did you
it,
see
and
that
I'm saving it. That's one of the ones specifically where I'm like, this.
Mhm.
I can't wait to chew on this film.
It's really fun. Like it's a silly movie, but I just enjoy watching it because of how silly it is. Like he and Tom Cruise adopted a daughter together, a vampire daughter, Kirsten Dunst, and it's like a very
Really?
gay film. Like it is a gay film, and
Are we talking gay undertones or like?
well, it's gay undertones in the movie, but the book it's literally gay.
Okay, gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah, so that's really interesting to me, and he has very long hair in that one too, and he doesn't do a great performance, and I think that I know that he hated making that movie, and he was really depressed and upset making it. Just
It's
like
really interesting that he shares about that stuff.
yeah,
I don't think
I
a lot
admire
of-
that.
Yeah, just him talking about like his career, and obviously, we brought up Ansel beforehand,
Mhm.
and people are sort of like, oh well, like his movie like just came out. I think it's perfectly fine if like people are being, just clear about like, oh yeah, I was struggling while I was making that movie, and I think it shows in that performance.
Yeah.
But
Yes, I admire that. I think that it's that vulnerability is really interesting, especially because this is an art form. As technical as it can get sometimes, like the acting and all of that, like it is art, and you need to be able to tap into a certain emotional state. And if you're really struggling in your life, like I think it makes sense that maybe your performance wouldn't be as good, especially if you're, Brad Pitt.
Yeah, for
who
sure.
doesn't have classical training and who goes by his emotions. And
Definitely.
yeah, that you can tell in Allied that he's going through some things, I thought, because that's kind of a recent movie, and I feel like it was kind of being made around the time he was having marriage issues.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
you can tell that his performance isn't up to par, and I think that what's going on in his life really affects his work, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, and I think it's interesting.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That was
The
off
only
topic,
other
but-
one, no, you're fine. No, that's
Yeah.
what we want.
Yeah.
The only other one I haven't seen that I am wanting to mention, I'm hoping you've seen this. It's one of the ones I'm saving because I'm like, oh, hopefully it's like movie star Brad Pitt, and I get one of those star making. It's Troy.
Troy, I saw
Yeah,
it.
you have. All right, talk to me about
Yes.
Troy.
Okay, Troy. So I watched the director's cut of Troy, which is like
Boy.
over 3 hours long.
Nice.
It's
Is that the way to
very,
watch
very
it?
long. I haven't seen the non-director's cut, so I'm not super sure, but I watched the director's cut because it's so long, which meant that there would be more Brad, and I wanted to see as much of him as possible. So if you're going for Brad, I guess director's cut then, because you definitely see
Get
his
more
ass
Brad.
in the director's cut. I don't know if you
Oh,
see it in the other one.
Of course, yeah.
But he
That's what got the butts in seats.
Yeah, that's it. So yeah, so the thing about Troy, again, he has the long hair, which as we discussed, we aren't necessarily fans of. But he also just plays this character who is he's posited as this kind of a hero with some moral issues, but still you're overall supposed to like him, I think. But he does some things that I didn't like, and not in the way that a thoughtful way that you're supposed to think about and is intentional. Like, I feel like you were still supposed to like him.
Yeah.
But he just was an asshole, and not in a fun way.
He's still like the hero.
Yeah, he's still kind of like the hero. Like, it kind of shows like, oh, maybe this wasn't great that he did that. But, he's the lead. We're supposed to spend all this time with him, and we're supposed to care about him. He plays Achilles.
Yeah, for sure.
But I just cared about all the other characters, except for the cowardly Orlando Bloom character, a lot more, which was weird for me.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
You weren't obsessed with Brad.
I know, which is like very strange for me because, but I just didn't care about Achilles enough to spend 3 hours with him.
That's fair.
And yeah, I just didn't think it was great, but his body is exceptional, so
course,
whatever.
Yes, that's what you go in for. Have you seen Mr. and Mrs. Smith?
Yeah,
I think it's not a great film, but it's one of those.
I don't think so either.
I tell my friends, and they, some of them don't really understand this claim. I think 6 out of 10 films that you really dig are very important, especially when they're like, I think this is okay. Well, this is 2 hours, so maybe it doesn't fit like this particular category. But it's something light that I can just have on while I'm doing other work.
Yeah. Yes.
And I don't know. It just doesn't take itself too seriously. It's two very, very pretty and handsome people.
Yes.
Obviously, Brad, Jelena uniting.
R.I.P. I miss them.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's an interesting one. I have a couple more before we get into like the films I love.
Yes.
How do you feel on Fury?
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I'm trying to think if I have anything salient to say about that one. I think that it's important in terms of his filmography, just considering, like Brangelina as part of his star persona and like how ingrained that is into his image, I guess, or it was. I mean, it still kind of is, but it really was huge. And I think that the fact that they like fell in love on set, and you can really tell that they have real chemistry. Like, that's what saves the film ultimately. If they hadn't cast people who like clearly had
it would be a bad film
chemistry, it would be like, what was the point of that?
It would be like a Bounty Hunter or the Last Night Call that Tom Cruise was in or whatever.
Oh yeah. Like, it just would not be good. But their chemistry, their chemistry just really, really saved it. And I think that's interesting and makes a great case for the importance of casting.
Of course. Do you like Fury?
Fury. Okay, so Fury was a surprise because I went into it thinking I'd hate it. Because I just don't really like war movies, and they're just not my thing. And it's like all dudes, and I just didn't think I'd care that much. And then
Yeah.
I watched it, and I thought it was good. Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I thought
Like
Fury
how
was
good?
good.
How good? How good?
Not like a masterpiece by any
Okay.
means, but I thought
But
that
you really enjoyed it?
I thought it was good because it focused so much on the characters and like the trauma that they're dealing with the war and everything, and how it really was more about the Logan Lerman character than Brad Pitt.
Any of the 'cause obviously Pitt, Shia LaBeouf, Michael Pena,
Yeah, it was like
pretty
Logan
big
Lerman
name
was
actors.
huge, yeah, and then it's about this kid, and his transformation from this guy who's all grossed out by gore and like is dealing with all of that to this killing machine guy kind of almost in the end
Sure.
of the film. That big, like that
Big
the end
fight
was
at
a
the-
little it was and everything. But I didn't care. I thought it was still
I
it was
think
a war
I had
movie
just
that I
heard
cared about.
there were a couple of my friends because as you were alluding to, a lot of guys love war movies. And people are like, "Oh, Fury's like one of my top 5 movies ever," and like I just kept hearing that, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I'm just not seeing this." Like, and maybe that was part of my viewing experience that sort of changed it for me. I think it's well acted. I think it's well shot. But it just never grabs me. I don't think it's a
I mean,
film
I didn't
I'll
watch it
necessarily.
again.
Exactly. I don't think it's a film I'll go
Yeah.
back to. Is the biggest
Mhm.
thing.
Yeah, I agree.
But-
I wouldn't really watch it again, but the fact that I didn't hate it was like, wow, okay. Good job
Nice
then.
for you.
Like,
Yeah.
You made me not hate it. Good job, War Daddy. And the fact that his name is War Daddy, that's incredible.
Yeah. I have one that I consider a bit of a snooze fest. Obviously a well put together snooze fest. But curious to hear what you think, Mia, on The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Oh, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Curious
That
case
one-
of how you feel on it.
Yeah, curious case. It is a curious case of how I feel about it because that one I didn't watch for quite some time, actually. That was also one that I was kind of saving because I was like, oh, Fincher, Brad, Kate.
Coming up,
I'm
yeah,
gonna-
obviously.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna wait for a special night. I'm gonna watch it. And curious case. Let me gather my thoughts about that one.
Yeah, I'll go for it.
Yeah, so I love David Fincher. Obviously, he's one of my favorite directors. And the thing is, though, is that I don't necessarily know if he was super well suited for this one.
Don't think he was either.
Yeah, I don't think it's just, and that's fine. Like he does other things brilliantly. But this one, yeah, it was very, very long considering that it's based off of a short story. And he also does not get hot until an hour and 50 minutes into the film. It takes that long. But,
no, yeah, you were counting every minute.
Yes, I was like, when
You're like, old man Brad Pitt, come on, let's go, let's get to it.
Old man Brad Pitt. And it's wild that he was Oscar nominated for this one, I think, when he's churned out better performances in the past.
I'd say this is the one that I think like campaigned, like the only one that the Oscars like recognize as, because the Oscars, like they do this trivial thing where like comedic performances, like I think she should have been nominated for Burn After Reading.
Oh, me too, hands down. He really, really should have.
I think he could have been nominated for 12 Monkeys. I think he could have been nominated for Inglourious, but those aren't really performances that, like, obviously, 12 Monkeys, sci-fi movie. Inglourious is a war movie, but his character is the goofy idiot. But there's a skill to that. And I
feel like people think. Oh, sorry.
You're good. I was just gonna say. I think back to your point you were saying at the beginning where Brad Pitt admits to other actors having different talents than him. And obviously he says they're better, but I don't believe that. I do think someone like a Christian Bale or a Tom Hardy could have been a little bit better in a project like this. Just because you're right. When you see old man Brad Pitt, it's like, okay, well, wait a minute. This isn't the Brad Pitt we all know and love. Like,
Yeah. It's like, why did you cast a hot person as the? Why you didn't have to do that? It's just like I feel like he was cast because he and Fincher are such good friends
Buddies.
and everything, and they just wanted to make something together, and that's cool. That's cool. I would love to make movies with my BFF, but
yeah, that's why I have
awesome.
massive respect for Adam Sandler, because it's like,
yeah,
you get paid to go on vacations with your friends and make awful movies. Yeah,
right.
Of course.
Right? People I think that there are other things to drag him for, but people will drag him for just making bad movies with his friends on vacation, and it's like, you wouldn't do the same thing if you were getting paid to do that. Like, please, you guys.
Of course.
But what was I saying about? Oh yeah, Oscars and Brad Pitt. I think that there's a comparison to be made with like Cary Grant of back in the day. He wasn't nominated for things either because he was perceived as just kind of playing himself almost. Just kind of doing the same thing of being this charismatic guy. And even though it's really hard to do that,
for sure.
he wasn't really recognized by the Oscars either.
And well regarded as one of like our favorite or best actors, to this day.
Yeah, he has a legacy, and like Brad Pitt is going to have a legacy too. But again, he's not really respected in the awards.
Was he not nominated for Assassination of Jesse James?
No, his only nominations were they? I don't think he was nominated
I feel like
for Jesse
that's
James.
One that like people would be like, Jesse James is a film that people would be buzzing about for Oscars, I guess. Maybe it just wasn't.
I think what happened with Jesse James was it came out in 2007 when There'll Be Blood and No Country for Old Men also came out.
Oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah, that's the big thing. So it was like there were kind of a lot of movies that had similar vibes coming out at that time, and I think that this one just kind of got buried in in all of that stuff. But Assassination of Jesse James, I think that is a beautiful movie, and he consistently says it's like one of his favorite movies he's ever made, and he's really proud of his performance that he did in that one.
No, he's really impressive in that project. That was one of the first ones, because I watched Brad Pitt's performances in a little bit of a weird way. That was one where I was like, no, this is one of our best actors of all time. Mm-hmm. But I'm looking at his nominations, and this will help fill some holes, I suppose. But 12 Monkeys was actually nominated.
Yeah, I'm seeing that now. I started looking up too, because he won the Golden Globe. I remember.
He did, yeah. I thought he wasn't nominated for the Oscars, but won. But no. I think that performance. That performance is spectacular.
He's so good at 12 Monkeys.
Makes the movie like.
Yeah.
Because Bruce Willis
very,
is
very
similar.
memorable.
Yeah.
Very similar to Fight Club also. Just to hit that role specifically, in the sense that he's just kind of like this insane dude who kind of builds up a following.
And like more something that's weird about 12 Monkeys is I think they're like similar performances, but obviously the Fight Club is the one that is like become a part of like the public knowledge of like, oh yeah, we know Fight Club. Or even if you haven't seen Fight Club, it's like, yeah, Brad Pitt's hot in Fight Club. Whereas like,
everybody knows. It's just a cultural fact.
You're born and then you're shown the picture and it's like, oh, that's a very attractive man.
Yes.
No, but I think 12 Monkeys like should be talked about more, because I think it's one that like the average moviegoer hasn't seen or doesn't know about, and it's hitting I guess it's hitting the 25-year anniversary coming up. So hopefully it'll be one of those with re-releases.
Ooh, that'll be good. And 12 Monkeys, he did that the same year as Seven. That's insane.
Really? All right, let's move to Seven.
Seven.
Great performance.
Oh God, I think that Seven is probably my favorite of his dramatic performances. Brad Astra is up there now that I've seen that one, but I think that Seven, that's just a stellar performance. Like the whole, I know I've written about this on Letterboxd and everything, but like his "what's in the box" thing, like that is just, when you get that script, it's just gonna say what's in the box. That's just all the script is gonna say. And like he did so much with that line, to the point that like it's kind of in our cultural vernacular. Like you can just be like, people, what's in the box?
And I think even more importantly, people use that. So it's one of those things where I feel like that earns its place, even though it is sort of a joke. Because I knew about, I mean, I didn't know what it meant, but there were people that would quote, what's in the box? Like every time I'd bring a box to their house, and I'd be like, I don't know what that means. They're like, watch 7, and I'm like, no way, like,
Yeah.
no, but it's something that's incredible when you have a presence like Morgan Freeman on the screen, and it's like, no, Brad Pitt is matching like his sort of like dourness that Fincher's being able to put on the screen, and just the chemistry that they bounce off. Obviously, he's the plucky like new guy, and he just fits so perfectly. Just the sort of like pureness of his character, and especially when spoilers, I guess, but when Spacey shows up, and Brad Pitt and him have a brilliant dynamic. And
in
again,
the car.
Yes, exactly.
Oh yeah, that's a good scene.
But these are ones that weren't nominated, so I guess it's a little bit of a change. But
he really should have been nominated for 7. I will say. I just want that
definitely.
on the. He does a great job in 7. I just rewatched that one recently.
I think 7 is one of those films that like the Oscars messed up, and it was very quickly seen like, oh hey, why did we mess up like this? Like, why did we forget about this movie? And it's like, yeah, well, that's what happens sometimes, like with you guys.
That's what happens sometimes.
Yeah, but all the Ocean's films, obviously we alluded to them a little bit earlier.
Yes, back at it.
Yeah, I love a heist. And I think like this, I think, when did the first Ocean's film come out?
2001.
Like 2001. Yeah. It has 2 of the most handsome actors of all time.
Yes.
George Clooney and Brad Pitt, and they are lovely together, spectacular. Matt Damon as like the sort of like intern to these 2 people is great as well. Julia Roberts is incredible. And I think, okay, I have a question for you about Brad Pitt in these films.
Please.
Is he gay? is Rusty gay? Is that like, are there undertones to that? Because I feel like in Ocean's 12 specifically, there's some hinting. And I mean,
I kind of I do think that Rusty and Danny Ocean, they kind of have something going on. And just like evidenced by in the first one, like George and Julia, obviously they're together in the films.
Of course, yes.
Like in the first one where Brad is like driving them when he's picking up George from prison at the end, and he just like gets in the front and then he drives these 2. And I think about that because it's just like he just like kind of
he loves
he just kind of takes it. He loves
George Danny Ocean, guy. So he's like, I can't do anything.
Yeah, and I like to read it as there's kind of something going on there. I kind of like to think of it as like Danny Ocean is bi, and Rusty is gay.
I wasn't getting that vibe. I was saying that Brad Pitt was so in love with Danny. Like he'll do anything for him just because they're great friends and he's sort of attracted to him. But just there's specifically one eye roll he does in Ocean's 12 with something that Danny Ocean says. I forget what it is specifically, but I was like, oh, and like it just like 2, electrical currents shot together, and I was like, gay.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how to explain it, but in
a fun way. Like it's just, and people like get so mad if you insinuate that a movie like that like has some homosexual undertones when it's like it's just a fun way to read it. It's just a reading of the text. Like it's like I am seeing what's going on the screen and I'm telling you there are gay vibes. That is the way I feel about it. But
sure. I actually haven't seen Ocean's 13 yet. That's again one of those.
You haven't seen Ocean's 13.
Well, because I don't know how you feel about Ocean's 12. I really enjoyed my experience with Ocean's 12.
I love Ocean's 12. I do.
Oh, okay, great. We're in good company. Just there's some like meta nature that Soderbergh decided to go with it. And I think just the ensemble they put together is so great. Like they literally have Bruce Willis being Bruce Willis in this film.
And Julia Roberts as Julia Roberts, imitating Julia Roberts was so much fun. It's just like it's all kind of playing with celebrity and star power, because when you have Brad Pitt, George Clooney, Julia Roberts, it's like you can.
What else are you gonna do?
What else are you gonna do? Like you have the people to be able to do these meta things and be able to pull it off well. So I totally see like Ocean's 12. I love Ocean's 12. I really do love it. I think it's brilliant, and I think it's slower in a good way. It's like more character
For sure.
focused, and the stakes are way less high than Ocean's 11, I think. And it's kind of more of a hangout movie with like the guys, the dudes,
Yeah, and that's the
and that's
thing.
fun.
Like, my thing is like sequels. They often feel like they have to like up the stakes. So, say in
Mhm.
Ocean's 12 or in Ocean's 11, they rob a casino. An ill-advised director would just be like, "Oh, well, we need to make an even bigger heist, and we need to do
Yeah.
this many more, like 4 casinos." It's something that, like a
Mhm.
film like Now You See Me, I'm sure does in the second one,
Yeah.
where they're like, "We're gonna
Well, that's
rob the
kind of
entire world."
the entire world. Yeah, that's kind of, I think, a little bit what happens in Ocean's 13, tragically,
Interesting. That's
is like
unfortunate.
they do kind of they don't necessarily up the stakes, but they up what they're doing. Like it's kind of a big
Oh,
heist
gotcha.
in kind of a way that doesn't work as well for me. Like I'm not a huge fan of Ocean's 13. I'm gonna say it.
Okay. I haven't seen
um,
it, so can't.
yeah. It's just I'm not sure. Brad's hair though does look the best out of all of them,
Ocean's
in my
13,
opinion.
really?
I know
I'll
you
need
like
it.
I know
I'll
you
check
like the
it out.
Ocean's 12 cut, but I do really like his hair in Ocean's.
Okay, so I think what it is specifically with the Ocean's films, I feel like in Ocean's 12, his haircut is the most sassy, and
Yeah.
I really like sassy Brad Pitt.
Mhm.
But we'll move on to I guess one that follows sort of in the same time zone. Snatch. Are you fond of
Snatch!
Snatch? Yeah, it's
Yeah,
fun.
I just
It's
rewatched Snatch actually just like
really
a month or so ago with a pal, and because it's my friend's favorite movie. So she was like, "Let's watch Snatch." And I was like, "Yes, I will watch Snatch with you anytime." And yeah, no, I do like Snatch. It seems like a movie that maybe I wouldn't like because again, it's like a bunch of dudes. But then I watched it and I was like, this is fun. They're just snatching and there's a dog and the dog's eating things. And and I like, I like the fast-paced editing, and it was just a fun ride. I like Snatch, and I think that his accent is fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that think it's not realistic, and I don't think
Yeah.
that's what it's going.
That's not what he's going for.
Yeah,
He's not trying to do it's like that accent is very clearly not supposed to be super authentic, I think.
yeah, and so many people are like,
Just
"Oh, it's not even close." It's like, yeah,
it's like,
that's
yeah,
the
that's the
point.
funny part about the accent. Because again, like his characters do play on the fact that you know who this man is and you know that he's an American. And so when he does these accents, first off, he's just not great at accents, which is fine. I'm so bad at accents. And like, his movie The Devil's Own, he does an Irish accent that's like really trying to be authentic. And it's just awful. It is not a good accent. So then with Snatch, he's doing this weird Irish accent hybrid thing because they tried to get him to do a London accent and he couldn't do it. And so they were like, let's just have you so they're like, let's just have you do like this gibberish Irish thing where nobody's understanding what you're saying. And I think it works really well because it would
Yeah,
be
it
hard to
does.
speak gibberish.
It is hard to speak.
It's like it's very hard to do that. And I think that he does it in a way that's both like clearly kind of making fun of himself. So yeah, I do like his Snatch performance, and he's shirtless a lot of it and fighting, which is
Which
fun.
helps.
That's
I
that's
have
like his thing.
So I have 6 left now. One that I think, for whatever reason, just because it was at the top, because recency, and that's how Letterboxd works. There's some weird ones that were towards the top. Like I know he's in Being John Malkovich, but it's for
Yeah,
like
but not
3
really for
seconds.
a second.
Yeah, no, but
And Deadpool 2, let's not forget.
yeah, lest
God.
we not forget, obviously.
Uh,
But the Big Short, I feel like he's just okay in.
yeah, The Big Short. I think
But
that
that's a film I love, but he's just not
Mhm.
tasked to do anything. And
Yeah.
I sort of for whatever reason I like that, just like Brad Pitt like showing interest in either him and Adam McKay are friends, or he just wanted to be a part of the film. And him just showing up. I sort of, I know this sounds weird, but if we could normalize Brad Pitt, I think that could be cool.
Yeah, normalize Brad Pitt. No, I agree. I think that well, he did The Big Short because like he produced it. He helped produce it, and he was I really think the only reason he appeared in it was so that they could market him in it.
It is one of those things where I'm
Um,
sure there's a big push for him that they're like, hey,
yeah.
you have to be in the movie. We want to put you on the poster, and he's
Yeah,
in
because
it for
he's like
like
in the poster.
10
He's
minutes.
really not in it that much. And
Yeah,
I think that he just really believed in the message of The Big Short, and
for
he just
sure.
wanted to get that movie made. So he was like, "Yeah, I'll be in it if it helps." But
If that's what it takes.
yeah, like I'll just show up and do a few scenes. But yeah, he's not in it that much. The Big Short. I thought it was interesting how he did put on a disguise, I guess, as in like he had a
Did
beard
he
and like the
looked like
longer
someone's
hair.
dad? Yeah,
Yeah, he did because he was playing like a real person, and like I don't think he's necessarily suited to do things like that because as we keep saying, all of his characters, they shine when they are kind of infusing his persona with the character.
And
Um,
that moves me on. The five I have left, I feel like I've sort of saved these. They're the ones that I would lump, obviously 12 Monkeys as part of this and a couple of other performances. But like Brad Pitt's like, ooh, he's like a talented man. I think this is a controversial one. Obviously, there's tons of people that love this film, and there's a ton of people that don't really get it. But I think Brad Pitt does something that, because I've seen other Malick films, and specifically in Tree of Life.
yeah.
There's, because I've seen the other ones, and Ryan Gosling's in one, Christian Bale's in one, but I think Brad Pitt, like for whatever reason, like does the best with Malick's work. And he just like, it's almost like a dull boy performance that he just captures brilliantly. Like I think he's what makes Tree of Life powerful, because otherwise it could just be Malick, showing us some very pretty visuals. But I think he's the one that sells that film to make it amazing in my regard, or in my mind. But how do you feel on this one, Mia?
I agree. I think Tree of Life is a masterpiece. I bought it on the Criterion Blu-ray. I have it. It's right on my shelf. I think that it is just a beautiful movie. Blew my mind the first time I saw it. Because I was very high, which was the correct way to view Tree of Life, in my opinion. That is an endorsement. And then I watched it again.
Is that on the back of the? Is that on the back of the Criterion cover?
Yeah.
5
Put it
stars,
on there.
Brad
Like
Pitt,
it really
watch
helps
while
with the
high.
experience.
Yeah.
It does help because Tree of Life, I do think that it's one of his best performances. It's one of his best films, but yeah, a lot of people didn't like it. Like when it was because if Brad's in your movie, it's going to get a wide release, and people like demanded their money back when it came out. They had to put up signs in theaters that said like, warning, this is an art film.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think specifically, but that's what I like. I like when like Brad Pitt, because I don't know, like you were saying, like he is sort of like boxed in because of how he looks and what he is, to movie studios financially. Like it doesn't make sense for them to, if Brad Pitt like if he wanted to be the father in Hereditary, like there are expectations that would go into that if he played that role. And that movie would obviously make more money, but the crowd that's going into it is the crowd that wants to see him in a role, if we're switching to like Moneyball, which is like a typical Brad Pitt role, which is one. Yeah. It is a classic Brad. I love him in Moneyball.
A classic Brad Pitt role, yeah.
And I don't actually dig his hair like too much.
I know, right? Yeah, it's not great, but
I think what's interesting about Moneyball is, again, Brad Pitt's getting like talented people. Obviously, this is a Sorkin script. And I think it just shows that, again, when he's presented with talent, like, dude knocks it out of the park.
Yeah,
baseball.
Baseball. Yeah, baseball. That was good. Little baseball joke for the fans. See, I am not a sports person, and I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know anything about baseball or whatever. And I was truly just here for him when I watched it, and like I'm just not even gonna lie. Like that was why I watched
commitment.
This movie. Yes, that was why I watched that movie, and so it's like I'm just biased because I don't like baseball, so I didn't really like them. I personally. I don't really care about the movie, but I thought that he did a great job as Billy Bean, and I love the scene where he takes 2 bites out of a Twinkie. Or no, he shoves the Twinkie in his mouth, like, it's just crazy. There's a gif of it, and like he just does it very easily. Which, speaking of, he loves to munch in his films.
Does love to munch.
He loves to munch. He's always eating in his movies, and I love
found
that.
the Twinkie gif.
Yeah,
I'm
the
now
Twinkie
watching it.
gif. It's really fascinating.
Incredible. Also, there's I will be watching this afterwards, and maybe link in the description for the dear listener. But there's a Brad Pitt eating mashup. That is 3 minutes and 8 seconds.
It's long. Yeah, people send that video to me a lot, and I'm thrilled every time. Because it's like, oh yes, another reason to watch this video.
I definitely agree with you. This is a film I literally could care less about baseball. And for whatever reason, I was just like, yes, Brad Pitt, tell me more about the shortstop, I guess.
Right? It's like, please mansplain baseball to me. You're the only person I'd allow to do that. Like, yes, like, yeah. But also, you know, Philip Seymour Hoffman's there.
Yeah,
and he's one of my favorite actors ever, R.I.P. I just love him so much. So that was really a treat. So it's like, I feel like I don't really want to like hate on Moneyball, even if I didn't like it, because I can appreciate that it was good. It has to be if it was nominated for 6 Academy Awards, I suppose. But
yeah, I have the other two that are grouped together. Because they're old Quint films.
So
Quint obviously,
Man.
Yeah, obviously Inglourious Bastards, where he plays the first Lieutenant Aldo.
Lieutenant Aldo Rain.
He's incredible. I think this is, for me, the most iconic line where he says, "Killing Nazis is business.
Killing Nazis.
Business is good."
Oh, I love that. The way that is killing Nazis is just incredible. Also, Buongiorno.
Yeah, that's
Buongiorno.
Again, there is something that takes talent in playing that idiot. Like you can't just waltz on a stage and like have people, you know, laugh at you. And it gets underrated. Like that's the thing. One of the things I was like, oh, I'll wait till later to talk about this more. But he steals the show. And I'm saying that with a impressive performances from Michael Fassbender, Christoph Waltz, Melanie Laurent. You know, there's a whole slew of amazing people in this, but Brad Pitt is lovely.
He's excellent. I remember, when I watched it for the first time, I was too young, in the sense I was like teens or whatever, and I couldn't appreciate it as much as I appreciate it now. Like Inglourious Basterds is one of my favorite movies. I just saw it in 35 millimeter semi-recently. Yes, I know. I watched the films. Yeah, I was at like this art house theater in my city, and I had to go. I love that film. But when I watched it the first time, as like little tiny cinema brain 16-year-old, I was like, there's not that much Brad Pitt. Like, this was really boring because he's not in it that much. That was I was very young. Like, that's not how I feel now. I'm going on the record.
That's fair.
It's a 5-star perfect movie. But yeah, when I was a teen, I was like, this is really boring. Like, he's not in it that much.
That's interesting. This is one of the first films that like I watched it and I was like, oh, so this is what cinema is.
Right?
It's like that, like Good Will Hunting. I'm trying to think of the others, but I think the Before trilogy helped with that stuff too.
The Before trilogy, ouch.
Yeah,
that one gets me. That also helped me a lot.
Yeah. Where I was just like, oh, dialogue is all that a film needs.
Right. Dialogue is so important to a movie. It's crucial. As, you know, as we're kind of discussing with Inglourious Basterds and everything, like that script, part of what makes his performance so great is like the words that he's getting to say. And I think
perfect for him.
They're just so perfect for him. And I think that he and the directors that he works with most, like Fincher and Tarantino, I just think that it just works, especially because they know how to write for him. Because it's trickier than you'd think, I feel like.
Oh, for sure. And I think that shows even more so if we're moving on to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Tarantino like knows like what Brad Pitt is and like excels with like this movie.
Yeah.
Look, I'm talking to you, population of United States. This movie should have been one of the highest grossing movies ever. It has Brad
Mhm.
Pitt and Leo. What more do you look? He's wearing the glasses. Like, what more
Yeah,
do you
oh,
need?
the glasses, yeah.
The glasses are so cool. The way he whistles his dog, the way he drives his car, when he fights hippies, like
Mhm.
this movie's so perfect. And we have a full spoiler episode, so we won't get into like too much spoilery. Even though, what are you doing? See the movie.
I know, yeah, just go see it. Like at this
Also-
point, yeah.
Also, are you really excited? I'm hoping there's a lot of Brad Pitt in the 10-hour cut that they're gonna release later on.
Yes. I am very excited for that because there has to be so much of him. Like there has to be so much footage
I feel
out
like
there.
they're gonna add more of him and his wife.
Yeah, because he said like we're gonna answer that or something like the questions, which I don't know. I mean, like on one hand,
yeah, I agree
they
with you.
don't
I
need
don't know if they
to.
need it. Yeah, but
I don't think they need to do it by any means, but I'm
But
also
more
not going
Brad
to
is
complain
more
about more
Brad.
scenes of Brad Pitt. That's the thing. It's like whatever. I'm not mad, even though I do think that the ambiguity of it is the whole point is that it's referencing the Natalie Wood incident because like the wife is named Natalie and everything. So and nobody knows what happened on that boat with Natalie Wood and Christopher Walken or whatever and the other guy I don't remember. So
Sure.
it's like that's kind of the whole point is that it's ambiguous. But again, more Pitt.
yeah, that's all we
No
need.
problem.
So I have our last one, and this is one that I will say right off the bat. It's going to be spoilery. And if you haven't seen Fight Club, this is one of the few. I think there are a lot of films that are in the culture. People know the things about the films. If you don't know anything about Fight Club, watch Fight Club. Like I wish everybody could have gone into it because there's a lot of my friends that say, "Oh, well, I knew where the ending was going because I had been told about it."
Right? Yeah.
And I feel like that sort of makes the film if you don't know about it. So with that said, let's get right into this. I think Brad Pitt's perfect in this movie.
Yes.
Like so perfect. I saw the beginning and I was like, Jesus, this is the best narration I've ever seen.
Yeah. When the narration is actually good.
Yes.
That's so important
Hits the
because
spot.
there's so much bad narration out there, but then the Fight Club narration because it's based off of the book and everything, so the prose is just brilliant. It's just such a good movie, and it's a shame that certain incels have twisted it.
Well, that's what's so interesting.
Yeah.
It's very clearly not that, but people are taking it as this
Yeah.
like, oh, this is what like macho-ness like, and it's so abundantly clearly being like, hey, male toxicity is the problem in this film, and they're like,
Mhm.
no, male toxicity is why we get cool films like this, and it's like, no.
No, it's just like so. Like I watched it with the commentary with like Ed Norton and Brad and Helena and Fincher, all them. And yeah, they even say in the commentary, Edward Norton's like, how could you not realize that this is just what happens when a bunch of frat boys take themselves too seriously? Like they're just like talking because they recorded the commentary a little after it came out and everything. So they knew the fan base and everything.
Sure.
And so they could comment on that, which was because they were just like, these are just a bunch of idiots who are doing this thing when they don't need to.
Fairness, the movie's cool, so I understand like how surface level like you could be there, but it just bothers me so much. Like, what are these people thinking? But yeah, no, I think there's something that Brad Pitt sells about the overall loopiness of it, because when you're watching the film the first time, this magical first time.
The first time watching Fight Club, I will never forget.
Yeah,
This
is one of the few films. Jeez, it was in my parents' room. No, no, but I think like when you don't know what's going on, and it's like, oh, well, obviously something's off about this character, and he's messing with Brad Pitt, and you're on the same level as Edward Norton at that point. And just the overall coolness of Tyler Durden, even though he's mysterious, you're like, no, I sort of buy into what he's selling just because it's Brad Pitt. Look at him. He's so sexy.
He's so unbelievably. It's like, of course you would fall for that. Of course I'd join that cult. Like, no question I'd join a Brad Pitt cult. I'm already in one. Like, it's just Fight Club is absolutely, it's fantastic. That's his role. And nobody else could have done it, I don't think. Like, when they were first making it, the studios were like, let's do Russell Crowe in that role. Which is
No,
like,
this
that
film
movie would have been bad. Like, they would not have worked. And Fincher was like, no, because like this character is a guy that this other guy made up, essentially. Like, this is the coolest guy in the world, the coolest guy this guy could possibly think of. And that is not Russell Crowe. Like, when you think of the Ultimate Man, you think of Brad Pitt. So it's like, of course, that's who should play that role.
And that's one of those things, again, like, obviously, he is a pretty face. But when he's able to, like, take this character that is just raw coolness and make it into his own performance, it's really something. Like, I think this is one of the best performances discussion all time. I know that seems weird, but like, if you're Brad Pitt and you're given this, you are being tasked a lot to do to not sort of give away or make it too confusing. And he does it effortlessly.
Just like the perfect amount of charm and easygoingness, and like, it's also a gay film. There's also huge gay vibes radiating out of that. And especially because the book, it's written by a gay man. He has said
again, like, the people that are attaching it to it, like, don't even know like where the source material's from.
I know, it's like, you say you love this thing. Are you going to do any research about it? What? What are you? Yeah, so it's just like,
the people that found out about Freddie Mercury and were like, he did what in his free time? It's like, wow.
I know. It's like, if you dig a little bit. But I have another thing to say about Fight Club, and that well, it's gone.
Oh, that's good. You're good.
That's fine.
But that pretty much wraps it up for Brad Pitt talk. If you want, me and Mia are actually going to get into a small, I don't know how long it'll be, because we've been talking Brad Pitt for a while.
Yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
There is. He's a very, very talented actor, and very diverse career. But we'll be doing a spoiler episode for Brad Astra, or Ad Astra, if you're not Mia. But real quick, Mia, before we head out, what is a recommend for the week? Just something you've been watching, consuming. It doesn't have to be a film. It can be a TV show. It can be a movie. It can be a book. It can be an album. It can be just a song or a painting. Anything you want. Is there anything in particular you have seen?
Oh, that's a really fun question. Thank you. Wow. Okay. That's good. Because I do consume a lot of media. Yeah, you know what? I thought of something. Here's something. I read. I have been reading a lot. Is that okay if it's a book?
That's perfectly fine.
Do people read these days?
People do read.
People read. Okay, well, I just read this brilliant book that is not getting a lot of talk, but I think it's so good. It's called She Said, and it's about it's by the journalists who broke the Harvey Weinstein case. The scandal and everything. So like, yeah, I guess this is kind of a serious wreck, but it's something that I'm very passionate about. And yeah, it's just such brilliant reporting about the lengths that Weinstein went to cover up all his misdoings. And it's just so detailed, and just like, they really worked so hard on it. And it really shows just how the systems are not put in place to actually protect victims, and how easy it is to silence somebody when you have a lot of money. And I think that that's still very relevant. And I don't think that this book has just kind of gone under the radar, but it's been written by these Pulitzer Prize winning journalists. So I've been trying to like hype it up, because I just think it's beautifully written.
Really good piece. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, if you're interested in movies at all, I think that it's a very, very essential kind of backstage view of the ugliness behind the studio system. And I think it's crucial to know about if you want to consume movies in a thoughtful way, or make movies in a thoughtful way. So there's my pitch.
Awesome. So my pick for the week is me being a goofball. Obviously, this is a film. Actually, there's one other film I want to mention real quick, because it is on Amazon Prime for free. Late Night. I thought it was a really fun film. If you have a mom that you watch movies with, I think this is a perfect like mom or grandma movie. Really fun. But the other one that just hit streaming and video. I'm about to go buy it on Blu-ray just to sort of handle my sins of not seeing this film in the theater because I'm a dummy again. The film I'm recommending is Booksmart. I watched this for the first time. I know we've had Hannah on a couple times and she's not fond of it, but everybody else has been decently high on it besides Blake and Hannah. No, this film's incredible. And I think it is ill-remiss of people to say it is a clone of Superbad or even put it in the same camp as Superbad, just because I think Superbad specifically is like a male fantasy of what the last day of school trying to get with girls is, whereas Booksmart in a really fun way is just Olivia Cook, correct?
Olivia Wilde directed
Olivia
it.
Wilde. Geez, why was I thinking Olivia Cook? But Olivia Wilde does something really interesting in that she does this like sort of Grand Theft Auto style of like a playground with like a comedy film. And it's something I haven't seen like too often. And I really do think if you can try to seek this out, I'm hoping it'll find, and I think it is, finding more of an audience. Because what's funny is, of course, I don't love harping on this like the most, but it's the way things are in sort of like a male-dominated society. Like Booksmart, I think made like, I don't know, like $8 million opening weekend, and people were like
it didn't do great,
already writing it off.
Like,
like Booksmart is a failure, and it's like, well, if you know how comedies work, and you know this was made for $6 million and it made 28 total, you know it was a success. People were saying like, oh, Brightburn, huge hit, and again. Exactly. Like no one is talking about Brightburn, whereas I think people are going to be talking about Booksmart for years and years to come.
It will. And, to Brad Pitt just said this, we shouldn't judge movies by their opening weekend box office takes. And he says that it's a mistake because of like, exactly as you're saying, like what is going to stand the test of time? Like, what are we going to be talking about in years and years? Like, in 2010, when The King's Speech won the Oscar over The Social Network, nobody's talking about The King's Speech. Nobody cares about The King's Speech. But The Social Network, we are constantly talking about 0.03%. So I just agree with him. It shouldn't be about opening weekend box office because word of mouth is so important.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to add even more if you haven't seen it, or if you really liked Booksmart, buy it on Blu-ray.
Support.
Go crazy. But yeah, that wraps up our episode. If you guys want to find us, you can do so at All That Film Pod on Twitter. You can email us if you have questions, concerns, or just general praises. You can do so at allthatfilm1@gmail.com. If you want to check out our website, and you can check and see some of our films for the 2010s Decade in Review tourney we're doing at the start of 2020, you can do so at allthatfilmpodcast.wordpress.com. Mia, where can we find you? Obviously, Brat Pitt on Letterboxd, but are there any other things you want to?
Yeah, I'm on some other things. I just changed my handle on Twitter to Brat Pitt. I finally changed it.
Embracing it.
Yes, I'm like, this is me now. Now that finally everybody's waking up to Brad Pitt, when it's like, I've been on this for the past years. But I changed it to Brat Pitt, so that's what I am on Twitter. Brat Pitt on Letterboxd, and I also write for the brilliant blog Much Ado About Cinema, which is just a really nice place for young, diverse critics. And I guess that's really all I do. Woo!
Woo! And thank you so much. You've been a treat talking Mr. William Bradley
Pitt.
Yeah, that's our episode. Bye, guys. Check out our Ad Astra spoiler review, but see ya.